Welcome to Civics and Coffee. My name is Alicia, and I am a self-professed history nerd. Each week, I'm going to chat about a topic on U.S. history and give you both the highlights and occasionally break down some of the complexities in history and share stories you may not remember learning in high school, all in the time it takes to enjoy a cup of coffee. Hey everyone, welcome to the final edition of Wonder Woman Wednesday. I thought I would end Women's History Month with going out with a bang and thought it was only fitting to end this month by highlighting the life and impact of the second female Supreme Court Justice in United States history, the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The suggestion to cover Justice Ginsburg came from a longtime lover of the podcast and my buddy, Val. So Val, I hope you enjoy this. And for all of you, grab your cup of coffee, peeps. Let's do this. Before she was the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was just a girl from New York. Born Joan Ruth Bader on March 15, 1933, Ginsburg was the second daughter of her Jewish parents Celia and Nathan Bader. Ginsburg's older sister passed away when Ruth was still a baby, and her mother instilled in her the importance of education, telling her young daughter to be a lady and be independent. Also, she was a Pisces, and Pisces rock. Yes, this is from a fellow Pisces. Sorry, not sorry. Ginsburg excelled academically, with the help of her mother, who was unable to attend college herself due to poor family finances. Wanting more for her daughter, Celia pushed Ruth to be a strong student and would drive her to the library to study. Ginsburg was accepted to Cornell University, and she began her undergraduate work at the age of 17. Cornell University is where Ruth would meet the love of her life and the man who would lobby hard for her consideration to the Supreme Court, Marty Ginsburg. Marty was Ruth's opposite in almost every way. He was gregarious to her reserved demeanor. He liked to crack jokes and be the life of the party, while Ruth was happy to stay at home or be a wallflower at the events. Later in life, Ruth would cite one of the many reasons she was enamored with Marty. He was the first man she met who wasn't afraid of her brain. They officially married in 1954, 1 month after her graduation from Cornell University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in government and finished first in her class. Due to Marty's call for active duty, the couple moved temporarily to Oklahoma, where Ginsburg was fired after becoming pregnant with her first child. Always fascinated with the law, Ginsburg enrolled into Harvard University in 1956 and was one of only 9 women in a class of 500 law students. When speaking of her time at Harvard, Ginsburg would remember feeling uncomfortable and that she was always being watched. One of her more odious experiences included dinner with the university dean, who hosted all the female students. Apparently, at these dinners, the dean would ask the women to explain what they were doing taking a seat away from a man. Nice dude. In what seems like a lifelong calling, Ginsburg worked to prove worthy of her seat at the school by exceeding academically, making the law review in just her second year at Harvard. To qualify for the law review, you had to be in the top 25 academically. Both Ruth and Marty were attending Harvard at the time, with Marty being a year ahead. During their time at law school, Marty was diagnosed with cancer. To make sure he did not fall behind, Ruth organized his friends to take notes for him, and at night, after caring for her husband and newborn child, Ruth would type up the notes from his friends and study for her exams. After he graduated, Marty secured a position at a law firm in New York. After being denied the ability to continue her studies remotely at Columbia Law, Ginsburg officially just transferred to Columbia and graduated with an LLB from the law school, again, as the first in her class. And though she was a top legal scholar, after graduation, Ginsburg was unable to find a job as a lawyer. The reasoning? Law firms just did not hire women. This was a time when it was perfectly legal to fire a woman for things like being pregnant and requiring a male cosigner on a credit card application. Ginsburg would spend her career fighting against these practices, making the argument that sex discrimination hurts the entire country. Unable to get a job as a practicing lawyer, Ginsburg began teaching law at Rutgers University in 1963, where she was told plainly she would receive less compensation than her male colleagues since she was married and had a husband who made a good living. In 1970, Ginsburg founded Women's Rights Law Reporter, a law journal focused solely on women's rights, the first journal to do so. In 1972, Ginsburg began teaching at her alma mater, Columbia University, and became the first female tenured professor for the school. While teaching at Columbia, Ginsburg co-founded the Women's Rights Project with the American Civil Liberties Union and became their general counsel in 1973. Shortly after becoming their general counsel, Ginsburg assisted in the arguments on her first case in front of the Supreme Court. The case, Frontiero v. Richardson, surrounded a female Air Force officer being denied a housing allowance, though the allowance was given to her male officers of the same rank. Nervous about oral arguments, Ginsburg made sure to skip lunch. At issue in the case was a statute that made it difficult for female members to get access to family benefits for their husbands. Arguing her amicus brief, Ginsburg's short appearance is where she quoted famed activist Sarah Gremke's statement, quote, "I ask no favor of my sex. All I ask of our brethren is that they take their feet off our necks." End quote. The Supreme Court agreed in an 8-1 decision. She was back in front of the court in 1975, this time for Weinberger v. Weisenfeld. The case was brought in response to a man being denied widower's benefits from the death of his wife as he was caring for their infant child. Again, she won her case in another 8-1 decision. Ginsburg won 5 out of the 6 cases she argued in front of the Supreme Court and focused all of her efforts in establishing a legal landscape to tear down sex discrimination in the United States. Noted conservative Justice Antonin Scalia praised Ginsburg's contributions to equal rights, writing, quote, "She became the leading and very successful litigator on behalf of women's rights, the Thurgood Marshall of that cause, so to speak." End quote. In 1980, as the result of the expanded federal judiciary, Ginsburg was nominated to the federal bench by President Jimmy Carter. Nominated on April 14, 1980, Ginsburg was seated as a judge on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals after her confirmation in June of the same year. She would serve in this role until her nomination to the Supreme Court. And then, on a bright, sunny day in June in 1993, standing in the Rose Garden, President Clinton announced his nomination of Ruth Bader Ginsburg for the Supreme Court of the United States. In later interviews, Clinton remarked that though her husband was a strong advocate for her consideration, he knew he would nominate her to the bench minutes into her interview. Though she is touted as a liberal icon today, at the time of her nomination, Ginsburg was considered a moderate justice who could build consensus with her colleagues. She had broad-based support, including from Republican Senator Orrin Hatch. In her confirmation hearing, Ginsburg shared her story and spoke plainly of her support for abortion rights. She was confirmed to the court on August 3, 1993, in a vote of 96-3. She was the second female justice confirmed and the first female Jewish justice. In 1996, Ginsburg was given the duty of writing the court's opinion in the United States v. Virginia. At issue was a military school, the Virginia Military Institute, who was refusing to admit women. The court found that prohibiting females from the student body violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. In one of what would become many of her infamous dissents, Justice Ginsburg authored the opposing opinion in Ledbetter v. Goodyear in 2007. The case involved a woman who was bringing suit due to being paid less than her male colleagues. In the majority opinion, the court found that the statute of limitations had run out. Ginsburg argued that using this as reasoning to deny the claim was absurd given the fact that many women are unaware of the pay disparity and are sometimes hesitant to bring suit over small sums. Included in her dissent was a call on Congress to fix the statute to remove the limitation and make it easier for women to sue for better pay. In 2008, President Obama signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Many attribute Justice Ginsburg's dissenting opinion as inspiration for moving the legislation forward. In 2010, Justice Ginsburg lost the love of her life when Marty Ginsburg passed away from metastatic cancer on June 27th. After his death, Ginsburg discovered a letter he'd written to her. She recited it some 6 years later during an interview with NPR.
And it reads, "My dearest Ruth, You are the only person I have loved in my life, setting aside a bit parents and kids and their kids. And I have admired and loved you almost since the day we first met at Cornell, some 56 years ago. It was wrong about 56, it was nearly 60 years. What a treat it has been to watch you progress to the very top of the legal world. I will be in Johns Hopkins Medical Center until Friday, June 25th, I believe. And between then and now, I shall think hard on my remaining health and life, and consider on balance the time has come for me to tough it out or to take leave of life, because the loss of quality now simply overwhelms. I hope you will support where I come out, but I understand you may not. I will not love you a jot less.
I mean, relationship goals. Am I right? Justice Ginsburg achieved a sort of celebrity status in her later years, given the title of the Notorious RBG. During an interview, Justice Ginsburg was asked if she was uncomfortable with the nickname, given its reference to the slain hip-hop star Biggie Smalls. Her response? Why would I be uncomfortable? We've got a lot in common. And when shown a skit of Kate McKinnon's RBG portrayal on Saturday Night Live, Justice Ginsburg quipped, quote, I'd like to say Ginsburned sometimes to my colleagues, end quote. Ginsburg is infamous for her various collars worn over her judicial robes. The idea originated when she joins Sandra Day O'Connor on the court, and the two discussed adding something to their robes that was typical of women. They decided on jabots, usually made of lace, and she eventually expanded her collection to all sorts of collars made of various materials. Each one held a special meaning to her, including one particular collar worn for dissents. But don't get it twisted. Justice Ginsburg was not perfect. Her husband made a joke at her expense, saying he did not give her advice on the law, and she did not give him advice about cooking. Same girl, same. Ask my husband. I hate cooking. She would battle cancer 5 times, the first time in 1999. It was her cancer scare that prompted Ginsburg to get fit, and she began her lifting regimen after successfully completing her first round of treatment and got so strong she performed 20 push-ups at the age of 79. If you watched coverage of her lying in state in the Capitol, you may remember seeing a gentleman doing push-ups. That was her trainer, who worked with Justice Ginsburg twice a week until her death. Justice Ginsburg passed away on September 18, 2020, at the age of 87, due to complications from pancreatic cancer. As a tribute to her legacy, Justice Ginsburg was given the honor of lying in state at the United States Capitol on September 25th. She was the first woman and only the second justice to receive this honor. In her opening remarks at her confirmation hearing in 1993, Justice Ginsburg shared a bit of her history and I think gave us a preview for what would drive her time on the bench.
If confirmed, I will try in every way to justify his faith in me. I am, as you know from my responses to your questionnaire, a Brooklynite, born and bred, a first-generation American on my father's side, barely second generation on my mother's. Neither of my parents had the means to attend college, but both taught me to love learning, to care about people, and to work hard for whatever I wanted or believed in.
And with that, Women's History Month and Wonder Woman Wednesday has officially come to a close. I hope you've enjoyed these bonus episodes this month. Thanks again to everyone who gave me their suggestions. Peter with the podcast 2 Songs, 1 Couple. Go check it out. Val, my longtime listener and friend. And my new online pal Twitter user, Cute Weird History. You each had great ideas, and I humbly thank you. Also, be sure to tune in on Saturday as I start what will likely be a month full of Washington stories. It's going to be amazing. Now, don't forget to follow the show on all the socials. You can find me on the Instagram at Civics and Coffee, all one word, or on the Twitter at CivicsPod, or even on the Facebook, if that's your thing. You can get show notes, request episode topics, and get information on how you can support the pod by visiting the website at www.civicsandcoffee.com. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Civics and Coffee. If you want to hear more small snippets from American history, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to our next cup of coffee together.